say, kids, what time is it?
Hey there, sports fans. Keith here from GeekTime TV, and I'm here to talk again about the Book of Boba Fett, or should I call it the Book of Mandalorian. I know, I promised, I said I was done. I didn't want to deal with this boring show anymore, but then I saw things on the internet, and it piqued my curiosity, so I went back in, gave it a look-see, and I just had to kind of come in here and get my thoughts out while they're still fresh in my brain for the most part. But before we get into the Book of Boba Fett, or the Book of Din Djarin, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you have, we thank you very much. Please like, share, subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you like what you hear here. So off we go. So the Book of Mandalorian, the Book of Din Djarin, or the Book of Boba Fett. At this point, these titles would be interchangeable. So I gave up after episode 3. If you'd watched my previous video, I was done. I gave it my 3 strikes and you're out. And then I found out about episode 5 and subsequently episode 6, so I kind of had to go back and catch up. And I'm going to admit this to you, that when I sat there watching episode 4, I literally dozed off at some point in the middle of the show and I missed something, and I don't care. And I was actually awakened by the sound of the Sarlacc trying to eat the Slave One. I know it's the fire spray. No, it's the Slave One. So anyway, that woke me up because it was loud. And I was like, well, what happened? Oh my God, there's something happening finally in this freaking puke-ass show. I felt like I had to watch episode 4 because I couldn't go from 3 to 5, even though I could have gone from 3 to 5. It just didn't matter anymore. So I get to episode 5, and I know that The Mandalorian returns because it was given away all over the interwebs, but I tried to play as dumb as I could for my own benefit. And not only does The Mandalorian return, episode 5, as most of you already know, has no Boba Fett. None. Fennec Shan's in it for a little bit, but for the most part, no Boba Fett. Absolutely incredible. So right away, it showed me that, like, as you can see from this image here, that like the characters in The Mandalorian are so much more interesting, so much more rich in depth, in mystery, shrouded in mystery. These 3 characters right here, right? Just a world of difference. And we're not on Tatooine, even though we get there, but we're on some space station in a city somewhere out in space. Just really cool. Great scenes. Like there's a great scene here where Mando uses the Darksaber, and it was just awesome. And then like he has the duel with the other Mandalorian, and like you find out that the Darksaber gets heavier the more he wields it with rage and that kind of thing. Just really freaking cool. And then he confesses that he's taken his helmet off, and the armorer casts him out. And before he leaves, he asks her to take the Beskar spear that he has and turn it into armor for his little friend Grogu. And he gets on a bus. He gets on like a bus because his ship there, my God, Razor Crest. I think it was Razor Crest. I forgot the name already. But anyway, he gets on the ship and heads to Tatooine to catch up with. There's the package. Before we go into Tatooine, I just want to mention that I love how the little napkin or towel that he wrapped the little armor for Grogu in is shaped like Grogu's head. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. So anyway, he goes to Tatooine. He runs into what's her name? Amy Sedaris is her name, I guess. The comic relief. Probably one of the more annoying characters in Mandalorian's arsenal of interesting characters. Not too interesting. But of course, she's a junk dealer and she repairs ships, and she's got like this, she's a mechanic for the most part. She's got a garage with all her little service droids, and she pulls out this Naboo fighter, and they spend time rebuilding it. And it was actually and this is where I picked up on it specifically, the difference between the first 4 episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and this is the 5th episode of Book of Boba Fett. It's not. It's like the first episode of Mandalorian season 2.5 or something, and they're building this ship, and it's kind of a montage and everything. And now this was really interesting, as opposed to a lot of the scenes leading up to it in Tatooine that were filler and boring with Boba Fett. And I was like, why is this just working? And I'm going to get to my theory on why this suddenly was working in just a minute. So anyway, he takes the Naboo fighter, and as he's about to leave, Fennec Shan shows up and says, Boba Fett needs your help. You have to come help us fight these, what do they call them? The Syndicate. And Boba's like, I'm sorry, Din Djarin's like, I will, but first I have to pay a visit to my little friend. Say hello to my little friend. So it ends like, oh, he's going to see Grogu. Now when it ended, I'm thinking this was a filler or a bridge episode stuck in the middle or toward the back half of the season, and that's going to be it. It was a teaser for Mando season 3. We're not going to see him until Mando season 3. But no, episode 6 comes up, and it's more of this, which is fantastic. I was happy. And we get more Mark Hamill with the de-aging, or whoever it is standing in. Maybe he was just doing the voice. I don't really know. I don't really care. I'm not the world's biggest Star Wars fan. I enjoy the films, at least, well, some of the films. I never watched like the cartoons. I gave Clone Wars a try. I found it boring. I'm not into the EU. I'm just not like a Star Wars fanatic, and I'm not a Star Wars guru by any stretch. I'm just like I guess you'd call me a bit of a normie, where Star Wars is concerned, not like Star Trek, where I'm a freaking encyclopedia. But anyway, and we got Ahsoka is back, and Grogu is back, and it's just R2-D2, and it's like, again, this Mandalorian universe is really fleshing out, and we even get Cobb Vanth. So after Mando goes to visit Grogu, and he's kind of not allowed to see him. I mean, he's given the choice to see him, but Ahsoka makes it clear that if Grogu, who's kind of depressed and having trouble adjusting to dealing, to training with Luke and being taken from Mandalorian, if Mando sees him, it's just going to make things a lot worse and make Luke's job a lot harder. And so Mando leaves the little armor and leaves, and of course Luke knows he was there, so anyway, Mando leaves, and he takes his Naboo fighter back to Tatooine, and I'm like, oh no, here we go. And sure enough, there's a freaking boring-ass scene with the Book of Boba Fett cast in Jabba's palace. And they're all sitting around this dinner table and talking about, like, oh, we've got to build a fighting force to take on the Syndicate, what do they call them? The Pike Syndicate. And I'm like, oh my God. It just... immediately the show hits the freaking wall again, and I'm like, what Boba Fett was so cool in the movie. How could they do that? Like, he's sitting there with his helmet off, and they're having this conversation, and Din Djarin comes in, and he's like, yeah, I'll help you, and I think I know where I can get some warm bodies to pitch in here. And I didn't expect what came next, but he flies over to Moss something. I forgot the name of the town that my boy Timothy Oliphant is the sheriff or the marshal of. He's the marshal. And nice to see him again, which is awesome. And now we get that old Western thing going again. It felt like a Western. Mando comes, and they sit at the bar, and he's trying to convince Cobb Vanth to join him in this crusade against the Syndicate, because, as he points out to him, look, this doesn't affect you now, but if the Syndicate runs wild with running the spice, heavy with the Dune thing, running the spice will flow, and they will conquer the planet. It's like, wow, this is very Dune-like all of a sudden, running the spice all over Tatooine and the sand planet. It's waiting for the worms to pop up. Vanth knows he has to help, and kind of leaves this unspoken, I'll be there. And then puts out word to his deputy to start recruiting any able-bodied person to fight. And as he's doing it, he sees this specter in the distance, my God, this was like so right out of a Clint Eastwood spaghetti western. The black-cloaked, black-hatted guy is walking through the the heat ripples, and he comes closer, and it's this dude. I had to look this up, Cad Bane. So I guess he's from the cartoons that I never really watched. So I'm sure people who are into the Clone Wars or the Rebels cartoons like immediately busted a nut when they saw this. From someone who didn't know who this was, I thought this was a really cool freaking character. And again, like, I'm thinking back to the first 4 episodes of Book of Boba Fett, where all the new characters they introduced look dumb. Like Joan Jett and her black hearts there, the little candy-colored speeder bike people, look dumb. They just look... they look cheap. They look bargain basement. They don't look like they're part of the Star Wars lore. Now here comes the Dave Filoni character. This guy's cool. This guy looks like he belongs in Star Wars. I was like, wow, this is great. And they have the Old West showdown. They're standing there, you know, hands on the... ready to pull the trigger. It was just awesome. I don't like what happened to Cobb Vanth. And I immediately looked on IMDb, and Timothy Olyphant's listed for 1 episode for Book of Boba Fett. I'm guessing he actually is dead. I was hoping he was wounded. I think he's dead. So, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I promised my theory on why the tone, the feel, the quality, the scope, everything about the scenes with the Mandalorian and the Mandalorian characters are so much better than the Boba Fett set of characters and Boba Fett himself in his own show. And I think that answer is Kathleen Kennedy. And here's my thinking. When Mandalorian was in development and it was going to be designated as a streaming show strictly for Disney Plus, Kathleen Kennedy kind of blew it off. Rumor has, this is all conjecture, this is just from what I've gathered from rumor and gossip and whatnot, but apparently she really wasn't that concerned with it. She was concerned with the movies. So the fact that they gave that to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, she was like, whatever. Take your little streaming show and whatever. She saw it as like filler for Disney Plus. And then Mandalorian became a freaking huge hit. And she was kind of on the outside looking in. And if you go back, I don't know if you've watched, but if you go back and watch those Making of the Mandalorian shows, I forgot what they were called. They're on Disney Plus. And they have the roundtable discussions with Favreau and Bryce Dallas Howard and Rick Fuyama and Filoni. And they're going around the table and they're talking. And every time she looked out of place, her comments lent nothing really to the conversation. And a lot of them seemed very dismissive of her. So, yeah, I think she got a little jealous, professional jealousy over the success of that show. Well, at the same time, watching The Last Jedi and The Fall of Skywalker just completely take a bloodbath. As we all know, The Rise of Skywalker earned half the money that The Force Awakens did. It was a travesty of a film. The sequel trilogy had no plan. They were making it up as they went along, and it showed. And the feedback and the fallout from that was very negative. And meanwhile, The Mandalorian was scoring all these points with Star Wars fans, right? So I think along comes Book of Boba Fett, and she's got her fingerprints all over it. She wants in this time. She needs to have control. And I know it says Jon Favreau on the titles, and I know it says Dave Filoni on the titles, and I know it says Robert Rodriguez on the titles, but this is not their work. We all know their work. We've seen Jon Favreau's work, going all the way back to Swingers. Take a movie like Chef. Jon Favreau makes quality films. Even if you want to say Cowboys and Aliens, as dumb as it is, still really, it's a well-made film. It's just can't be stupid. But this is sloppy. It looks cheap. The acting is pretty poor. It just doesn't feel like their work. It feels like they're kind of riding shotgun. And I think they're doing it so that they can continue to work on The Mandalorian and maybe future projects. And they're kind of letting this one, they're mailing this one in. And you say, okay, yeah, but now the Mandalorian characters are in the Book of Boba Fett, and Kathleen Kennedy has her fingerprints all over it. How does that make any sense? Here's how it makes sense. They developed 2 seasons and ran 2 seasons of The Mandalorian pretty much without her interference. And the lore is built. The worlds are built. And the storyline is set. She can't touch any of that. So when you take that and you inject it into this, you have night and you have day. And I'm telling you, the difference between these 2 shows is Kathleen Kennedy's involvement. And sadly, the only conclusion I can come to now is that Mandalorian is greater than Boba Fett. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a thumbs down. That's fine. If you did, give us a thumbs up. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. I'd really like to know what you think of my Kathleen Kennedy theory. And thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys soon. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up below. Also, please subscribe to GeekTime TV. It really helps us grow the channel. And make sure you hit that bell icon in order to receive notifications every time we drop new content here. You can also check us out on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at geektimenet. Thanks again for watching. We will see you soon.
Say, kids, what time is it?